This program is made possible through a grant from Catholic Cemeteries of San Antonio, providing a legacy of service and tradition since 1731. 3 locations for your convenience: San Fernando 2, Holy Cross, and San Fernando 3. Come visit these historical sites of Catholic tradition and talk with us about pre-need arrangements. Call 432-2303 for an appointment.
We're here at AMC Huebner Theater, inside the theater, and the screen's right here before us, with Bob Polunsky. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Dora.
We're gonna, and this was your suggestion, we're gonna talk about Leonardo DiCaprio films
talk
today.
about somebody current, somebody that the
oh
young
boy,
people,
big stuff too.
Oh yes, and yet he is a descendant of the rebel without a cause stream of characters, because he's always rebellious. The difference between him and Jimmy Dean, maybe, or John Garfield, is that he found his cause in each movie, and he did.
You know, and this kid can act. Let me tell you, from
He's
the
very
first
good.
time I saw him, and I'm trying to think of what movie it was. It probably was, I know that the first time I really took notice was This Boy's Life.
That was his
kid
first movie. That was his
really,
first movie.
really
And
acted.
he was really competing against the master,
De Niro.
Robert De Niro, and he plays a kid.
And he
who,
holds his own.
Oh boy, he's the center of attention. De Niro plays his stepfather, who really does know how to handle young people, and he's at that rebellious age anyway. Leonardo is, and how he fights back. I thought it was a very good movie, and yes, I noticed him too.
I think it really goes to this triangular thing that happens when a woman remarries and has a child already, and what can happen when that child doesn't get along with the new parent, with the new step-parent.
And that happens very often, and the way he played it shows what can happen when those things go on.
Curious role for De Niro, because he plays this, by the way, and we should tell the audience that De Niro in this film brings children to the marriage also, quite a few of them, and they're very regimented, very children who really obey, you know, down to the letter, and are very kind of, you can see that they take off as quickly as they can as soon as they can leave home. But De Niro is a little sick. He's got a little control thing to the nth degree, and he bumps heads a lot with the DiCaprio character in this.
He is the kind
of person. And he abuses him a little bit.
He does not want to be, he doesn't want anyone else to control him. And he does a very good job of bringing this character to life. I like everything that he did about that character. His next movie, however, got him an Oscar, an Oscar nomination.
And it was what he got an Oscar nomination for What's Eating Gilbert?
For What's Eating
Gilbert
Grape.
Grape?
He played this retarded boy.
He really played him. He really did. He really played him well.
Terrific. And I don't remember the name of the one who plays his mother, that real big hit woman.
Yes.
But she was from Dallas, and that's the only movie she ever made.
A Texan.
A Texan.
The mother character in this, and Gilbert Grape is played by, oh, what's his name? Gilbert Grape is actually the older brother of the family, and DiCaprio is his younger brother, who is retarded, but he has tremendous, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, thank you.
I knew it was going to come if I just...
I started to say Brad Pitt, and I knew that wasn't it.
But in any case, they have a mother who is extremely obese, so obese that she has taken to the house, she does not come out. So obese that when she finally does come out, she has to be carried out, and it takes almost a machine, I think, to get her out of the house.
Well, it takes, she's able to go in with the cane at the police department because she wants to challenge the policeman for taking her retarded son, who is our DiCaprio, in, and how she fights for him. But what it does to it ultimately destroys her, but in a way it liberates the other characters.
I think DiCaprio stole the show in Gilbert Grape.
And he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and I really am disappointed that he didn't get it. Because, you know, he did say one time, I've talked to him several times, and he's always talked about it and said, I'll do any role that I think is different and good. I don't care if they pay me or not. But don't tell anybody that, because I do want to get a salary. But he does take oddball roles because he likes the challenge of it. And some of his movies have been so challenging that there have been some controversies about them.
And the next one, Basketball Diaries.
Just recently, after the thing in Colorado with the shooting, they insisted that all the TV video stores pull them from the shelves.
Really?
They're all pulled. As a matter of fact, what you have scenes from now is not available unless you have some underground connections. But, and I didn't. I've had it for a long time.
So they really felt that. Now, Basketball Diaries is about a young man who
He was
a
poet, and he he was a teenager, and there's one scene dealing with guns in schools, and that's what was controversial about it. But here he's trying to go up and still trying to be a teenager at the same time, and DiCaprio keeps the balance. It has a very good supporting cast, but DiCaprio kind of overshadows everybody in there, including Mark Wahlberg, who does do a good job as his best friend. And it has got some raunchy scenes in it. I don't think it's something that you want the kids to see. Teenagers maybe, but I don't think teenagers want to see it with their parents. It might embarrass them. But it's a good movie.
Well, he really is. You know, the funny thing is the last movie that we're going to talk about today is Titanic, and in many ways, Titanic was the least demanding of all of his roles.
Oh, yes.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
The next one is Total Eclipse.
Oh, which never played San Antonio. Never played San Antonio, but you can get it on video. It was not a success, based on a true story. He plays this poet who actually influenced Jim Morrison. He was the poet who influenced Jim Morrison's work.
Okay.
And he was, in this case, the character is homosexual and doesn't even realize it at times. And he gets involved with, you know who David Thewlis is? Well, he's an actor, you know his face, if not his name, Thewlis, who is a married man who is also a writer, and they become involved, and they also become very, very, well, I don't know if competitive is the right word or not in their writings, but they do influence each other. And it's a very controversial film because of the idea of these two men. This David Thewlis is married and has a wife and a family, and yet he would rather spend more time with Leonardo DiCaprio. There's nothing really ugly or graphic in the movie, it's just the idea, and it's very, very arty. But this is the kind of movie DiCaprio wanted to do to show that he could do anything.
Is this poet still alive today,
No.
the actual poet? No.
Rimbaud, I think is his name, R-I-M-B-A-U-D.
Interesting. Now, finally, the one that probably most of our viewers are the most familiar with, and that's Titanic. And again, I have to say, I really do think that, in fact, he probably was stretched less as an actor in this one than in
He
any
didn't want to
other.
do it. He did not want to do the
stop.
part.
Really?
No, he did not want to do it because there was no real character for him to play. He was just going to be in there for decoration, he felt. And he did fight it, but he did take it. I think one reason that he did take it is because the other cast members that were in it, I mean, he seemed to like Kate Winslet, who played the heroine. She, too, has his attitude about going more to the art movies rather than a mass appeal movie. She did Hideous Kinky recently. That was her follow-up picture. And so she has some of the same attitudes, and I think she probably coaxed him into doing it. I like Billy Zane, who played the villain, and he was very, very good.
He was very good. He was
he?
one of the most interesting characters in the movie.
And did you notice that, you know who played the unsinkable Molly Brown? Molly Brown really did exist, and she really was on the Titanic.
And is that how she got her name? I always wondered about that.
That was it. Matter of fact, there's a movie called The Unsinkable Molly Brown, which includes a sequence in it, played by Kathy Bates, by the way. And it's a small part.
Yeah, but she
it's
does
a very, very flashy
yeah,
way, and she befriends the DiCaprio character, who is actually in the lower class cabins. In those days, they had like third class, and he falls for Kate Winslet, who is in one of the upper class, and her mother is trying to guide her to a rich man. She's engaged to the Billy Zane character, who's a real jerk, and she falls for Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a love story more than a disaster story. Actually, the disaster of the Titanic sinking is just background material. And there have been so many movies made about the Titanic that part is anticlimactic. It's the characters you watch. Plus the way James Cameron, the director, segued in from a shot of the ruins of the Titanic into the way it looked when it was fresh. It's beautifully done. He deserved that Oscar.
The striations, the rigid levels of class in this movie are what make the love story between the upper crusty girl who's on the top of the deck and the young man who is way down below.
And that very famous scenes of her standing at the masthead with him behind her has become a symbol of that movie.
You know, the thing about the movie that we realize after taking a good long look at it is that she is more a prisoner within her class and has much less freedom.
So you're reading a lot into that movie, but I agree with it. But the movie wasn't meant to be flashy. It was just to show off their personalities. You know what his follow-up movie was? It was The Mask. It was The Man in the Iron Mask, which he played a dual role: the bad king and his good twin brother. And then he was also in Marvin's Room with Meryl Streep. And it was a small role, but flashy, and he was playing with people like Meryl Streep, who really can't control a film. And De Niro was also in that, by the way.
Did you think that he held up admirably in Marvin's Room?
Oh, yes, I think he did. Did you see Marvin's Room?
That's why I'm asking you.
Oh, I thought so very much. We should have shown that. Maybe next time. For the sequel to Leonardo DiCaprio, we'll show Marvin's Room.
Okay. In any case, we think that, you know what to me is astounding about him? We have about another minute left. And what's astounding to me about him is that he's so young. He is so young to have done so much already.
He has done a lot, but he has really gone after it to prove his worth as an actor, his skill as an actor, his ability to develop personalities and characters who are different. You never hear any gossip about him. You never hear anything about him
true.
at all.
I was going to ask you, what's he like? You've spoken to him a few times.
I have spoken to him several times. He's very nervous, but he's a very nice guy. Chain smokes like mad. He doesn't really act his age. He's very, very young, but he talks about things beyond his age. He is like a student of human behavior, and I guess that's why he's able to play so many different parts so well, is because he analyzes the behavior. He's a very analytical kind of a guy. He's not typical of the young people you see in movies these days. He's more like a character actor who's young.
Have you ever asked him anything having to do with the fact that the amount of fame has to be crushing at this point? I remember when Titanic came out, I actually felt sorry for him.
Well, actually, he feels as if the fame is destructive, and he hides. He does not like to give interviews. He stays away from the public. You know, Adam Sandler, we talked about in Big Daddy, he does the same thing. He does not like to grant interviews. I met him once, too, but it was just one of those things I was able to. But he does not like to do a lot of publicity tours. His private life he keeps private, just like Leonardo DiCaprio does.
Interesting.
And you don't find many people that age group, especially guys, who do that.
Yeah, I give him a lot of credit. He's just, I think he has an incredible career. God bless him. I think he has an incredible career. I think he's an intensely talented young man.
He's going to get an Oscar yet.
Yeah, oh, no doubt.
Maybe two.
We'll be right back to talk about movies in the theater right now.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Father Eddie Bernal.
And I'm Terry Collins.
And I'm Jim Ford.
We would like you to join us each and every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. for Gospel Feedback. We will be dealing with the last Sunday readings. We'll be taking your phone calls on a live program and also open line about anything you want. So join us Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m.
Encore Wednesday mornings at 11.
And an encore on Saturday morning, 11 o'clock.
We'll see you then.
Hello. I'd like to invite everyone to come to church every Sunday for the deaf community, Catholic Church St. Francis de Paolo. We have church every Sunday at 11:15. Also, if you need preparation for sacraments, baptism classes, wedding preparation, please contact me, Father Len, at phone 534-8588 or using a TTY 534-7577. Please come celebrate with the San Antonio Catholic Deaf community. Thank you very much. God bless you.
I'm Lainey Karam, host of Day to Day, a program that keeps you up to date on happenings around town, as well as on valuable Catholic information. We also bring you interesting guests that speak on timely subjects. We hope you can join us.
It's a beautiful experience to be able to walk in the steps of Jesus of Nazareth. I would like to invite you to accompany on a Catholic television pilgrimage to the Holy Land, November of this year. For further information, please call the Pilgrim Center of Hope. Spaces are limited, so make your reservation at once to go with us to the Holy Land to walk in the steps of Jesus.
We're back, and we're talking about movies that are right here, right now. The first one we're going to mention is one called Arlington Road.
Very, very controversial movie, because after the Littleton, Colorado massacre with the young kids in school, this movie was pulled. It was supposed to have been here last spring. It was pulled because it deals with schools and bombings and vicious people. Jeff Bridges is in it. Tim Robbins is in it.
And of course, we know because of the length of movies that this was made long before.
Oh, yeah. We had nothing to do with
gracious.
it. But they were afraid that they would get some bad publicity and possibly not make as much money because people would be afraid that they didn't want their kids to see it. And after all, that's where the bulk of the business is.
Yeah.
Even if it's rated R, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
But you know, who is the movie targeted toward? Doesn't seem, I mean, you know.
Young people in their 20s, teenagers in 20s.
Oh, okay. Okay, and what is the, you know, I mean, is it just about, what kind of statement is it making
It's
about?
making a statement that violence stays here. It does not go away. And with people like Jeff Bridges and Tim Robbins coping with it and fighting each other over it like that, that sometimes makes it even worse because they try to outdo each other. And I think it really makes a political statement about today's society more than anything else.
The next one is one called South Park.
Actually, it's called South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and it's one of the stupidest movies I have ever seen.
We should tell the audience it's an animated feature.
And rated R, but it's an animated feature, and it's based on the TV series, which oftentimes will bleep out the raunchy language on television because they have to. Well, they don't do it on the big screen. And that makes it worse. When you see a little small character representing a child use that kind of language consistently, it just sounds dirtier. It sounds dirtier. And it has such a dumb plot. The idea that Saddam Hussein is smarter than Satan, so he kind of courts Satan to be on his side. Should be the other way around, shouldn't it? Okay, and maybe they are in cahoots for that matter, but it's done with a lot of sexual innuendo, which is pretty sick. And it also has to do with the fact that the United States is looking for a scapegoat for all of its problems. And so they blame Canada. Why not? Nobody's blamed Canada recently, have they? Okay. Now, this is the kind of movie that really plays into the hands of everybody who wants to have movies censored. Frankly, I'm against censorship. I think you should not limit artistic expression. But I'm also against those who abuse the privilege. And I think South Park abuses a privilege. They put out of the mouths of babes, you hear words that you don't hear outside of the mouths of truck drivers in real life. And I don't mean this to be, I mean, pardon me, truck drivers, if I talk that way, but that's your reputation. But this is a way, locker room talk, which is completely unnecessary. It shows little kids going to a movie theater and they just pick up a homeless guy and give him the money so he can buy the tickets so they can go in. These things happen, and it does give kids ideas if they don't already have them. And that's supposed to be funny.
So this is really not a movie for children at all, even though, don't be fooled by the fact that it's animated.
And don't be fooled by animated. It does have an R rating, which doesn't really mean anything anymore. Also, a little bit goes a long way. These kids are really obnoxious on television, but a 15, 20, 25 minute for a 30-minute show is long enough. This is a movie that runs an hour and 40 minutes. And that's much too much to swallow. If you ask me what the worst movie of the year is thus far, I'd say South Park.
Whoa, okay, all right. The next one I want to talk about is one that you've liked a lot, and that's Wild Wild West.
Oh, I thought that was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. The idea of Kevin Kline, that when you first see Kevin Kline in the movie, he's dressed up in a very buxom way as a woman in a saloon because it's one of his many disguises.
Okay.
And he has this red hair, and Will Smith meets him there. The character of West and Artemis don't meet before the movie begins, as they did on television. However, he meets him there, and he thinks he's a woman. He says, "I am a man," and he jerks off his wig, which automatically puts his masculinity in perspective. You know that here is nothing. He's just a pretend character. It also puts the story in perspective, because here are people who are trying to help President U.S. Grant hang on to his job as well as his country. And they're both U.S. agents who come from different parts of the country and different fields of authority, but they combine forces out of necessity. And they battle Dr. Lovelace, played by Kenneth Branagh, and boy, does he chew that scenery. It's deliciously hammy, the way he does it. And they do have, there's a few romantic encounters here and there, but nothing that's going to be crude or graphic in any form or fashion.
Oh, and we should mention the female lead in this is Selma Hayek, I believe.
Selma Hayek.
How's she do?
Oh, she's delightful. She doesn't have a lot to do, but she is delightful. And she actually plays both guys against each other because she wants both of them to help her. And you never know exactly why she wants her up until the end, but she's still a good girl. She's not a bad girl.
Okay.
And the only real bad guy bad villain is Kenneth Branagh's character.
And as we know with most Shakespearean actors, he probably does a really good job of playing evil.
Yes, he plays this guy who's in a wheelchair, mechanized wheelchair, and he has a pet tarantula. He also has a gigantic mechanized tarantula that he uses to transport him around the southwestern deserts with.
Now, and you said the last time we talked about this movie that I was thinking that some of these mechanized sci-fi kind of devices would kind of break your concentration while watching the film because you'd kind of say, oh, no, they couldn't have done that then. And you said, no, they don't. They work very well within the
they
film
do, because
itself.
you can't take it seriously, and the sense of humor puts it in perspective. The personalities put it in perspective. Will Smith plays the kind of guy who always has a girl who's eager to smooch with him and everything, but he has one eye on the keyhole to see what villains are coming, and while he's kissing her, he doesn't actually, I mean, you can't really take it seriously. And the girls get mad at him because...
Does the pairing of them work as well as with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones? Is there that kind of...
chemistry? I thought that was, I thought it was better. I thought it was better because Kevin Kline doesn't try to steal a scene, overshadow it, neither does Will Smith. They play as a team more, and they complement each other. And for all the shenanigans, all the witticisms, all the actions one does, the other counters, but he doesn't try to repeat it. Now, I liked him better than with Tommy Lee Jones.
All right, okay. Something that we want to talk about, we're taking a few steps back, is that Star Wars is still with us.
Barely. It's losing its force. And I think it's high time, because the most professional thing that they did, the best thing about that movie was the marketing. The hype.
That was really.
The hype got them in there.
I've never seen quite that degree of, well, Titanic got a lot of hype.
Yeah, but not to the extent of Star Wars. And of course, they didn't have to sell Titanic as much as they had to sell Star Wars, because Star Wars does not really offer you anything new. New faces, new names, same story ideas, same special effects, only more of them, and they last a little bit longer, moves a little bit faster, but you don't really have anything new to enjoy. It's not going to have the repeat business. That's why they really did bang on the door so hard to get our money out of our pockets for that first few weeks. And of course it did. It did. The kids came out in big numbers. People camped out in front of the movie houses. I think they were staged. They were hired to do it, to attract other kids to do it. Well, that's called salesmanship in Hollywood. That's what they call.
Well, I just have to ask you, so really, aesthetically, you feel that the first Star Wars trilogy is better than at least the first leg of this trilogy?
Oh, yes, very definitely. I also think the very first Star Wars was better than its two sequels, although I still like the personalities developed in those more than I like the way the personalities developed in this one. For one thing, Liam Neeson doesn't have as much to do to be a good hero, and the little kid, and I forgot his name, but anyway, who plays it, he's just a kid. He's just a little kid. He's not Darth Vader. They say that's what he's supposed to grow up to be, but he's not Darth Vader. He's just a dumb little kid.
Next, Summer of Sam. It's Spike Lee's first foray outside of black themes to do a story that concerns a horrible, horrible killer that scared the daylights out of people in New York for a very long time one summer back in the late 70s.
Yes, and it's very, very well done, and I'm not a Spike Lee fan. Generally speaking, I think that he thinks too much of himself, and he tries to show that in his movies. This time, I think he put the movie aside from himself, and he tried to develop a project. The only other movie I liked of his was Crooklyn, because it developed characters that I felt sympathy for. Most of his movies are defiant and Spike Lee's right in the middle of it.
Oh, I like Spike. I think he raises some questions
Well,
we need to,
He
but
raises
whatever.
questions, but he doesn't answer them.
Well, his stuff isn't always even. That's my only criticism of Spike. But I always think I call him a work in progress.
I know, you said that before. But to me, he can be very arrogant, very vain. When I told him, and
You've
I've met
interviewed him, yeah.
several times, and I said, Crooklyn is the very first movie in which I really felt that I really cared about the characters. He said, that's too bad. I said, what do you mean? I meant that as a compliment. He says, because you're not black.
Oh.
That's what he said.
Well, that sounds just like Spike Lee.
It was Spike Lee. I can tell you more stories, but I don't think I should on television.
We're going to move to another one that you liked a lot also, and it's called Arlington Road.
Arlington Road, yes, which had the controversy because it has to do with bombing in public schools. And so they shelved the picture until the summer. You know, sometimes I wonder, it would come out in April. Who goes to the movies in April? In July, their kids are out of school, they'll all go. They said they shelved it maybe so kids wouldn't get any ideas or because of that controversial thing, but maybe they figured that's the time to put it in because we're going to get more publicity advantage out of it.
One more thing coming up real soon, too, is Eyes Wide Shut.
That was Kubrick's last film with a very nude Tom Cruise and a very nude Nicole Kidman.
So we're talking a movie for adults.
Well, we're talking about people who like to watch nudity on the screen. It's all about a married couple who are both psychiatrists, and they play out their own sexual fantasies.
Interesting.
And it must have killed Kubrick.
Well, I'm waiting to see, you know, how well this goes over, because he does have a very select group of people who have watched his films for years and have appreciated his artistry, who probably will show up for this film.
But you know what, Dora? If they do, and they like the idea of very intimate sex scenes between a couple who are really married off camera, it's almost like being a peeping Tom. And you don't get a vicarious thrill out of it when you see some graphic sex scenes between people who are not related or not married and so forth. You can identify with them.
It is a weird psychological space, since we know these two are married already.
So maybe that's why the eyes are shut. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, in any case, it's certainly not a film for children. It's a film for people who want to take a look at the last thing that Kubrick did. And what a legacy! One day we'll do Kubrick. He's had quite an interesting life in film. We will be back next week, and I want to thank you this week.
That was fun.
Okay.
This program is made possible through a grant from Catholic Cemeteries of San Antonio, providing a legacy of service and tradition since 1731. 3 locations for your convenience: San Fernando 2, Holy Cross, and San Fernando 3. Come visit these historical sites of Catholic tradition and talk with us about pre-need arrangements. Call 432-2303 for an appointment.